out and spend and consume. And Maria, unlike what happened in the February budget, where there was income tax relief, which is graded, it depends on whether what you earn, and only a certain section benefited from that move. A GST cut practically impacts everyone. Yes, of course, tobacco and certain other sin goods have moved to a higher slab rate. But if you look at it across the board, there is rationalization. A rich man can also purchase the same biscuit packet that a poor man can also purchase. He will consume the same branded milk or a soft drink, buy shoes. Of course, we are not talking about the ultra rich here. So the economic benefit of such a move would be far more significant. And does the Indian economy need a GST cut at this stage? Absolutely. We are still amongst the fastest growing major emerging economies in the world, but growth has tapered off. And therefore, if you see, the need of the hour is to get the growth engine firing. And finally, why is the growth engine important at this stage? We know the global context. The US has been trying to squeeze us into a corner. We will see what happens with the visit of the commerce minister and what kind of breakthrough, if at all, comes through at this stage. But it's very clear what the prime minister said yesterday, I would say, was very, very significant. I hope he elaborates on that as well, which is from chip to ship. Everything has to be made in India. So that concept of Atmanirbharta, long journey, but the fact that we are going down that journey will only make us a much more stronger economy, Maria.
So from chip to ship, everything has to be make in India, emphasis on Atmanirbharta, emphasis on Swadeshi. Gurcharan Das, economist, is joining us as well. Siddharth made an interesting point that GST has been remade, that it will be reaching a destination perhaps with the beginning of tonight, 12 p.m., when it actually comes into effect, the new generation GST reforms. And then that is going to be announced, likely to be perhaps, I would say, by the Prime Minister, the significance of it. And that is the reason why he has chosen today to address the nation. Gurcharan Das.
Well, I think it's a GST reform was much needed, and it's a good thing that it has come. I think personally, yes, others have suggested improvements, and my improvements relate to a great extent on the administration of GST. But before we get to that, Maria, I wish that he had had the two slabs would have been 8% and 15%. Because now the distance between 5 and 18 is so great, there'll be a huge pressure on a lot of people, a lot of brands to be brought down. And this will, again, that lobbying, again, litigation, and all will be there. So maybe at the next stage of change, they can have this 8 to 15. Originally, the original plan of the Kelkar report on GST was one rate. And that one rate was close to 13%. Anyway, as to where we should be headed to make GST stand not for goods and services tax, but a good and simple tax.
Yes.
That should be the name that we should give to GST. And that should be, we have done it in the case of faceless assessment in income tax. It's really taken out a lot of the friction, and a lot of the CAs I've talked to, they feel they haven't seen the face of an income tax officer ever since faceless assessment came into being.
Okay.
So it's reduced corruption, increased transparency, and so on. So here, I think there's a number of things that we should be doing. We think there are two slabs. There's still many more. Of course, there are less. Earlier, we had actually 45 slabs because, there are some things that are exempted, some things that are not exempted. That problem is still there. But nevertheless, the ultimate goal really is our goal ultimately is 7% growth.
Okay.
I would have said 8%, but in a democracy, 8% is impossible.
Okay. Gurcharandas, just hold on to your thoughts because we are taking a quick break and waiting for that address to the nation because that's going to start in another 32 minutes. Prime Minister Modi will address the nation at 5 p.m. What will it be on is the big suspense. We'll track this story very, very closely. A quick break and then we return.
You are watching India Today.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
Hello, Moto.
Do the moto moto.
Motorola Edge 60 Fusion, the undisputed, most loved phone. Grab Motorola Edge 60 Pro today.
Hi, here are the top headlines. Presented by Motorola. Jacqueline challenges High Court verdict in money laundering case. President Trump warns Taliban over return of strategic Bagram Air Base, India to face Pakistan in Super 4 match in Dubai at Asia Cup 2025.
India Today Conclave Mumbai 2025. September 25 and 26 Mumbai. Book your seat now.
Ram Charan met with Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah in Mysuru on his cordial invitation. The meeting took place as the actor was in the city for the shooting of his film Petty. The meeting occurred amid a brief pause in the film's production schedule due to the demise of Allu Kanakaratnam. Ram Charan, who is Allu Arjun's cousin, cancelled the shoot for a short period to attend to family commitments. For the unversed, Peddi is directed by Bucci Babu Sana and features Ram Charan in a transformed rural avatar. This would also mark a significant departure from his previous roles. Along with Ram Charan, the film would also star actors Janhvi Kapoor, Shivaraj Kumar, Jagapati Babu and Divyendu Sharma.
In a major diplomatic twist, the United States, the United Kingdom and France blocked a Pakistan-China backed bid at the United Nations to sanction the Balochistan Liberation Army and the Majid Brigade. The two groups had been proposed for designation under the UN's 1267 Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee after Washington listed them as foreign terrorist organizations. Pakistan joined hands with China and pushed the proposal as part of its long-standing claim that the BLA is backed by India. Islamabad's decision followed after Washington designate the Resistance Front blamed for the Pahalgam attack as a Lashkar-e-Taiba linked group. The three nations rejected the proposal, citing lack of evidence linking the BLA and the Majid Brigade to Al-Qaeda or Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, which is required for listing groups under Resolution 1267. The 1267 regime, created back in 1999, imposed sanctions such as travel bans, asset freezes and arms embargoes on groups associated with Al-Qaeda, the Taliban and ISIL. The development comes amid the backdrop of strained US-India relationship over Russian crude oil and is also seen as a mirror response to China's repeated moves to block or delay India-US efforts to sanction Pakistan-based outfits like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. The setback is a big blow to both Pakistan and China, as the BLA has repeatedly targeted Chinese development projects in Pakistan. The proposal is now stalled for 6 months before it can be reconsidered. So while the US, UK and France stood united, Russia has yet to announce its position. With Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
You are watching India Today.
Welcome back. In another 26 minutes, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address to the nation. We have guests who continue to be with us. Minister of Road and Transport, Nitin Gadkari, has spoken to India Today on how the GST 2.0 will put more money in the hands of people, pushing up their purchasing capacity, and in turn the GDP, exports and economy of the nation. Listen in to what the Union Minister said.
नितिन जी, कल से जीएसटी लागू हो रहा है देश भर में, इसका क्या इम्पैक्ट होगा आपके डिपार्टमेंट पे?
अभी ऐसा है कि
बहुत सारे कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्क सस्ते हो जाएंगे।
देखिए, निश्चित रूप से ये बहुत स्वागतार्ह कदम है भारत सरकार का, वित्त मंत्री का और प्रधानमंत्री को मैं धन्यवाद देता हूं। इससे हमारी इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ बढ़ेगी और टैक्स कम करने के बाद में भी टर्नओवर बढ़ेगा, परचेसिंग पावर बढ़ेगी और वो पैसा फिर से सर्कुलेशन में आएगा और जीएसटी कम नहीं होगा, जीएसटी उतना ही लगभग आएगा। तो एक प्रकार से हमारा जीडीपी ग्रोथ बढ़ेगा, एम्प्लॉयमेंट पोटेंशियल बढ़ेगा, एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ेगा और हम आत्मनिर्भर भारत की ओर जाएंगे। और जो ग्राहक है आज, जिसके कारण जिनका जीएसटी के कारण अभी से ट्रक, स्कूटर, बस, कार, ये ऑटो रिक्शा, इसमें सस्ता हो गया, तो निश्चित रूप से इन लेने वालों का भी फायदा होगा। तो मुझे लगता है कि एक प्रकार से स्क्रैपिंग के कारण हम सर्टिफिकेट दे रहे, उसका कुछ कंसेशन मिलेगा। फिर ये जीएसटी कम हुआ, उसके कारण कीमतें कम होगी और इसका पूरा इम्पैक्ट करके फिर और परचेसिंग बढ़ेगा और वही तो मैं कह रहा हूँ, और गाड़ियां बेची जाएगी। तो निश्चित रूप से अब लोगों में, छोटे छोटे लोग, पुरानी गाड़ियों के मार्केट बड़े हो गए। अब हर प्रयागराज में आए तो मिडिल क्लास, लोअर मिडिल क्लास लोग पुरानी गाड़ी खरीदी की, सामान ऊपर में रखा, पूरा परिवार बैठा और प्रयागराज के लिए निकल पड़ा। तो टूरिज्म बढ़ेगा, उससे भी फिर से डेवलपमेंट होगी। देखिए, ये मल्टीप्लाई इफेक्ट होगा इसका और ये देश के इकोनॉमी के वित्त मंत्री और प्रधानमंत्री का बहुत सही कदम है और इसका कंज्यूमर को भी फायदा होगा, इकोनॉमी को भी फायदा होगा, सबको फायदा होगा।
Nitin Gadkari there speaking about how this is likely to have a multiplier effect. Dipanju Mohan, you wanted to come in, and I'm looking at how these key changes in the GST slabs will impact the automobile sector in particular. Small cars will now attract 18% of GST, down from 28%. Motorcycles up to 350cc also fall under the 18%, which will benefit mass market motorcycles such as Honda Shine, TVS, Apache, Bajaj Pulsar. Then we look at various sectors, and even electric vehicles remain under the concessional 5% GST though. But overall, this is an important sector, particularly keeping in mind the Diwali season, because this is the time people usually buy new cars, new bikes.
Yeah, so definitely, Maria, on cars, passenger vehicle segment, you would expect a positive impact right away. I mean, you are going to see a very good seasonal quarter for the next 4 months. Whenever any data comes out on consumer spending for the next 3-4 months, there is going to be a lot of good talk. You might see a very good spark in the quarterly growth numbers for the next quarter as well. There is no doubt that consumer spending boost, which is what annually all producers wait for, is going to improve. You are going to see that. But having said that, there are 2 points which are very important again for technical aspects of leadership, because what we are seeing also simultaneously happening as a result of this rejig of the GST slabs is a fact which is of a very high amount of household debt which has been accruing as a result of more credit-fueled spending. More and more people, in other words, are using credit instruments for making essential expenditure. And this is not just a tier 1 city feature. It is happening in tier 2, tier 3 cities.
That's right.
People doing a lot of field work. And 23% of the average debt per individual at a household level has increased. 23% in just last 2 years. This was, I mean, on an average, you can see 3.9 lakh to 4.8 lakhs at a household level in just 2 years.
Now, so you are sensing that that'll go down, but how? But no, what will be the slide like?
What happens is that when there is a lot of debt, whenever you save any money from spending, you're likely to pay in to cover in that debt. So that doesn't really go into your productive spending right away, and you don't see a growth impact of that spending. It's like saying that if I have a high home loan repayment to make and now I have more money that I can save, let's say that 2,800 I can save from a 90,000 rupees per month family B income, I can put that 2,800 now towards my EMI payment. So I'm still putting that money, but it is not leading it to be a high growth situation. The other big issue is household savings. I mean, Gurcharan Das is here and he would know that back in 2011-12, India's household savings level were around 34% of GDP. This number has come down to, as I'm looking at the most recent number, roughly around 9 to 10%. It was 17 to 18% in 2024. And that is a big problem. Household savings being low and debt levels being high means people will spend. A lot of people you will find will be going to shopping complexes, will be buying, but a lot of that may be coming from retail loan growth or credit card induced growth. And that is, in financialization of capital, not a good thing over term. So in the short term, definitely good growth impact, but medium to long term, you might see a lot of these not doing. The last point that I have to say, MRP revision of base price is the talk of the town among us. A lot of MSMEs, I've been speaking to a lot of MSME suppliers as well on consumer durables. They've not changed their base price in MRPs for very long. So as soon as the seasonal effect is out, you might see that the MRP is revised so that whatever little impact you would see of reduction in GST and MRP revision can just take that off the cliff. So
MRP revisions, if they happen, it will not translate into benefit to the consumers.
No, so of course, any benefit that we potentially would get from a reduction in tax and indirect tax would be offset by a revision in MRP, because MSMEs in many consumer durables have been struggling. I mean, it's from the demonetization years that MSMEs have been facing a lot of problems.
So, I want to look at multiple, consumer prices across various sectors: food, household goods, electronics, cement, Professor Gurcharan Das, medicines. That is the sense that this will encourage consumption and manufacturing growth. Will it actually translate into it? And if we were to look at direct translation, how soon will that be?
Well, I think that we really shouldn't be too impatient. It's the direct impact it'll take time. And it's in the right direction that we are moving. And so let's not think of the Diwali season, let's not get our expectations too high. All I can say is that this is the way we have to go partly to become competitive. And the reason why I was speaking about the administration of GST is the mindset that the government, there are some improvements that the government is making in registration, for example. I wish, by the way, there was one central registration for GST applicable in all states. That would take some of the friction out. Another point of friction is the fact that, to help the small guy, they said, okay, you can file your return once a quarter. But they said you must pay your tax every month. Now, the poor guy, you're loading the work on him every month because he has to calculate how much this is. And the kirana wala, whoever it is, he doesn't have the resources. So, and the third thing is to be sensitive actually to the market needs. For example, there's still an inverted duty structure. There's no GST on sanitary pads, for example, but there is an 18% tax on the inputs. And here, you cannot, because there's no tax here on the final product, you cannot get input credit for that. These are the things I think the government should keep listening to industry. So, for example, on this anti-profiteering, there's a lot of things, you got to pass it on. Now, but be sensitive. This, for example, in the FMCG, in the small consumer brands, these are on high-speed lines. These are produced. And to change every single SKU of every single product so fast is going to be very difficult. So last time when they did it, this anti-profiteering authority made an absolute mess. And 125 companies went to court, and it's still not been decided. For cases lying from the back. You have to see how can this be implemented.
Okay.
Obviously, when the new, new production takes place, but on the existing inventory, it's not going to be easy.
Yes, that's an important point that you have made, that how will it be implemented, and particularly when it is about insurance sector, will it be passed on? Yes, Professor Gurcharan Das, please.
One last point.
Sir.
The big area for reform in GST, the big, and it's the toughest area, is petroleum. Now, petroleum, I say this, I understand states' rights, and this will be taking money, a very big source of income for the states, but it will need a grand bargain with the states. But frankly, today, what makes us one of the big things that makes us uncompetitive against the countries we are competing with for exports is fuel cost.
Okay.
And so petroleum has a cascading effect.
That's right.
There are taxes upon taxes, and it makes our energy costs uncompetitive.
Okay. Professor Gurcharan Das, I have just enough time for the two guests that we have. So 1 minute to both, Sajjan Kumar and Aarti Jairath, and then we'll wrap this up. Go ahead, Sajjan Kumar.
Yes, Maria, besides what Dipanshu and Professor Gurcharan Das pointed out, let me give you some of the picture of the ground that I have seen.
Yes.
The way we see the incentive, it's also about the psychology of aspiration, and which caters to the lower segment of the society. The moment even little money comes to your pocket and in the household, suddenly you will find, and I'm talking about specifically about the southern Odisha, southern Chhattisgarh, and many of the tribal areas. In the last 15 years, you see that FMCG products suddenly finds a presence in the poor households. Now they have from Kachya to Pakka house, etc. Two, about the durables you find from FMCG to durables, it's a second-hand market that you find a very significant presence in the same segment. Many of the retailers' formal data doesn't capture that, So two-wheelers, four-wheelers, even air conditions, fine. Now, if somebody is getting cash to purchase new vehicle, the second they are going to sell it, and those second-hand vehicles, two-wheelers, four-wheelers are going to. So that way, I am more on the optimistic side that it is going to reach out to the bottom of the pyramid, because you have this, and many times corporates and share market, they invest on companies like V-Mart, D-Mart, right? Wherein these segment of society go into the bulk shopping. So that way, I'm more on the optimistic side that this is going to have a tangible impact, in the immediate term, and also it is going to boost the morale and sense of confidence, and therefore it is good for the economy.
Yes, Aarti Jairath, this is needed at this point because it's needed for the Indian economy, and at the same time, if you look at the larger picture, this is about trying to cushion the Indian economy with the ongoing talks which is happening with the United States with regards to tariffs, because we do not know in which direction it will go.
Absolutely, Maria. This has been a really, really tough year, right from the beginning. The coming in of Trump, and then going into Operation Sindoor. The whole sort of war with Pakistan, and then the trade talks with the United States, with the US. Going on, sort of creating obstacles for us and making demands that we really cannot fulfill. So it's been a very, very tough year. And I think, the idea of this address, yes, of course, he'll probably talk about GST. But I think the political message that he wants to send out is that the government is fully aware of the challenges that lie ahead and will try to address them. GST reforms is just the first step. If you remember, the PM has also talked about many more reforms. He has set a target of 100 days. He had a major meeting with economic advisors and key ministries to discuss the kind of reforms that can be done, because getting the economy going is not just a question of getting people to buy more goods, but it's also creating jobs. It's also, making it easier for businesses to start up. So, there are many things that lie ahead. And I think the message today that's going to come out is that the government is fully aware of the challenges ahead and is taking steps to address these challenges in these very challenging times.
Some bonanza or some package that could be announced for exporters is also something we'll be watching out for. Dipanshu Mohan, Gurcharan Das, Aarti Jairath and Sajjan Kumar, really appreciate your time. We'll be coming back to you as soon as the address to the nation is over. The Prime Minister addresses the nation in another 10 minutes. This remains our top focus here on India Today. A quick break and then we are back.
You are watching India Today.
legendary Assamese singer and popular youth icon Zubin Garg passes away at the age of 52, leaving fans across the state and nation in a state of shock. Zubin Garg was named after famous music composer Zubin Mehta. He was born on 18th November 1972 in Jorhat, Assam. Garg worked in Assamese, Bengali, Hindi and dozens of other languages, and he built a bridge across musical and cultural boundaries. Garg recorded his first album in 1992 and became an instant superstar in the state of Assam. Often referred to as Zubinda by the youth of Assam, he sung over 38,000 songs in different languages, but also through music direction, acting, and his presence as an artistic symbol for his home state. He directed several Assamese movies like Kanchenjunga, which broke the Assamese box office records. Besides the contributions in music and cinema, Zubin was also popular among the Assamese people for his social work. Garg was involved with many NGOs and actively participated in programs related to education for the underprivileged. The singer was in Singapore to participate in Northeast Film Festival and was about to perform later on in the day, before meeting a tragic accident. Garg fell into the sea during scuba diving. Singapore cops rescued him and took him to hospital, where he took his last breath. Wishes poured in for the legendary singer from across the nation. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma has termed the demise as a tragic loss.
মৰ্মান্তিক ঘটনা, মৰ্মান্তিক দুখদায়ক ঘটনা। আজি আমি বিজেপি দলে আজি গধূলিও আমি নিৰ্বাচনী প্ৰচাৰ নকৰোঁ। মই এটা খালি গুমাত গৈ মানুহখিনিক নমস্কাৰ কৰি মই গুৱাহাটীলৈ তুৰন্ত উভতি যাম। তেখেতৰ সৎকাৰ বা কি ধৰণে আমি তেখেতক আনো গোটেই কথাবিলাক গুৱাহাটীত গৈ আমি আলোচনা কৰিম।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the nation any time now. What will be the address on is the big suspense. Remember, the new generation GST reforms, which is being called as GST 2.0, kick in from 12 p.m. tonight. Will that be the big takeaway of this address to the nation? Is there a possibility of some kind of package announcement? Is there going to be an emphasis on vocal for local, the Swadeshi push, which has been very critical of what the Prime Minister has been saying on multiple occasions in recent times? Will there be a push again on Atmanirbhar Bharat, that there has to be self-reliance? That's the only way the Indian economy will grow. This address to the nation comes at a very, very critical juncture. It is coming just ahead of the festive season, just ahead of Navratri. That is the reason why there is a lot of suspense over it. Aishwarya Paliwal joins us from the BJP headquarters. That's where perhaps several BJP leaders will also be watching this address to the nation. Aishwarya, any moment that address to the nation is going to begin?
Well, you know, Maria, one of the key things that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been doing over the past many years is the fact that whenever he wants to give out a larger message, he has these addresses, because he understands, and people also understand, that this is a direct conversation of sorts that Prime Minister Modi is having with the people of the country. What these GST reforms are, how they will impact each and every one of us, and how there's a larger picture at play. Something that we have been all waiting for, and that's something that we have seen even in the policies that the government has come up with over the last almost 11 years, with the idea, the larger picture very, very clear. India wants to move from being a developing nation to being a developed nation by 2047. So that's the key focus here. We are also seeing how several policies are out. And, you know, we have also seen how most of the nations say that for them, their country comes first. And this is exactly what Prime Minister Modi has also been speaking about, that for India and for the Bharatiya Janata Party, specifically for Prime Minister Modi, it is India first, will always be India first.
So the reforms, remember, these new generation GST reforms is aimed at enhancing the ease of doing business, ease of living and investing in India by lowering taxes on everyday essentials, including food items and packaging, benefiting households, farmers.
शक्ति की उपासना का पर्व नवरात्रि का आरंभ हो रहा है। आप सभी को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। नवरात्रि के पहले दिन से देश आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के लिए एक और महत्वपूर्ण और बड़ा कदम उठा रहा है। कल यानी नवरात्रि के प्रथम दिवस 22 सितंबर को सूर्योदय के साथ ही नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो जाएंगे। एक तरह से कल से देश में जीएसटी बचत उत्सव शुरू होने जा रहा है। इस जीएसटी बचत उत्सव में आपकी बचत बढ़ेगी और आप अपनी पसंद की चीजों को और ज्यादा आसानी से खरीद पाएंगे। हमारे देश के गरीब, मध्यम वर्गीय लोग, न्यू मिडिल क्लास, युवा, किसान, महिलाएं, दुकानदार, व्यापारी, उद्यमी, सभी को ये बचत उत्सव का बहुत फायदा होगा। यानी त्योहारों के इस मौसम में सबका मुंह मीठा होगा। देश के हर परिवार की खुशियां बढ़ेगी। मैं देश के कोटि कोटि परिवारजनों को नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स की और इस बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। ये रिफॉर्म भारत की ग्रोथ स्टोरी को एक्सेलरेट करेंगे, कारोबार को और आसान बनाएंगे, निवेश को और आकर्षक बनाएंगे और हर राज्य को विकास की दौड़ में बराबरी का साथी बनाएंगे। साथियों, जब साल 2017 में भारत ने जीएसटी रिफॉर्म की तरफ कदम बढ़ाया था, तो एक पुराना इतिहास बदलने की और एक नया इतिहास रचने की शुरुआत हुई थी। दशकों तक हमारे देश की जनता, आप सभी लोग, देश के व्यापारी अलग अलग टैक्स के जाल में उलझे हुए थे। ऑक्ट्रॉय, एंट्री टैक्स, सेल टैक्स, एक्साइज, वेट, सर्विस टैक्स, न जाने भांति भांति के दर्जनों टैक्स हमारे देश में थे। एक शहर से दूसरे शहर माल भेजना हो तो न जाने कितने चेक पोस्ट पार करने होते थे, कितने ही फॉर्म भरने पड़ते थे, कितनी सारी रुकावटें थी। हर जगह टैक्स के अलग अलग नियम थे। मुझे याद है जब 2014 में देश ने मुझे प्रधानमंत्री पद का दायित्व सौंपा था, तब उसी शुरुआत के दौर में एक विदेशी अखबार में एक दिलचस्प उदाहरण छपा था। उसमें एक कंपनी की मुश्किलों का जिक्र था। उस कंपनी ने कहा था कि अगर उसे बेंगलुरु से 570 किलोमीटर दूर हैदराबाद अपना सामान भेजना हो तो वो इतना कठिन था कि उन्होंने सोचा और उन्होंने कहा कि वो पसंद करती थी कंपनी कि पहले अपना सामान बेंगलुरु से यूरोप भेजे और फिर वही सामान यूरोप से हैदराबाद भेजे। साथियों, टैक्स और टोल के जंजाल की वजह से ये तब के हालात थे और मैं आपको सिर्फ एक पुराना उदाहरण याद दिला रहा हूं। तब ऐसी लाखों कंपनियों को, लाखों करोड़ों देशवासियों को अलग अलग तरह के टैक्स के जाल की वजह से हर रोज परेशानी होती थी। सामान को एक शहर से दूसरे शहर पहुंचने के बीच जो खर्च बढ़ता था वो भी गरीब को उठाना पड़ता था। आप जैसे ग्राहकों से वसूला जाता था। साथियों, देश को इस स्थिति से निकालना बहुत जरूरी था। इसलिए जब आपने हमें 2014 में अवसर दिया तो हमने जनहित में, देश हित में जीएसटी को अपनी प्राथमिकता बनाया। हमने हर स्टेक होल्डर से चर्चा की। हमने हर राज्यों की हर शंका का निवारण किया, हर सवाल का समाधान खोजा। सभी राज्यों को, सबको साथ लेकर आजाद भारत का इतना बड़ा टैक्स रिफॉर्म संभव हो पाया। ये केंद्र और राज्यों के प्रयासों का नतीजा था कि देश दर्जनों टैक्सों के जाल से मुक्त हुआ और पूरे देश के लिए एक जैसी व्यवस्था बनी। वन नेशन वन टैक्स का सपना साकार हुआ। साथियों, रिफॉर्म एक अनवरत चलने वाली प्रक्रिया होती है। जब समय बदलता है, देश की जरूरत बदलती है, तो नेक्स्ट जनरेशन रिफॉर्म भी उतने ही आवश्यक होते हैं। इसलिए देश की वर्तमान जरूरतों और भविष्य के सपनों को देखते हुए जीएसटी के ये नए रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो रहे हैं। नए स्वरूप में मुख्य रूप से अब सिर्फ 5% और 18% के ही टैक्स स्लैब रहेंगे। इसका मतलब है रोजमर्रा के इस्तेमाल की ज्यादातर चीजें और सस्ती हो जाएगी। खाने पीने का सामान, दवाइयाँ, साबुन, ब्रश, पेस्ट, स्वास्थ्य और जीवन बीमा, ऐसे अनेकों सामान, अनेकों सेवाएं या तो टैक्स फ्री होगी या फिर केवल 5% टैक्स देना होगा। जिन सामानों पर पहले 12% टैक्स लगा करता था, उसमें से 99% यानी करीब करीब 100 के निकट 99% चीजें अब 5% टैक्स के दायरे में आ गई है। साथियों, पिछले 11 साल में देश में 25 करोड़ लोगों ने गरीबी को हराया है, गरीबी को परास्त किया है और गरीबी से बाहर निकल करके 25 करोड़ का एक बहुत बड़ा समूह नियो मिडिल क्लास के रूप में आज देश के अंदर बहुत बड़ी भूमिका अदा कर रहा है। इस नियो मिडिल क्लास की अपनी एस्पिरेशंस हैं, अपने सपने हैं। इस साल सरकार ने 12 लाख रुपए तक की इनकम को टैक्स फ्री करके एक उपहार दिया और स्वाभाविक है जब 12 लाख रुपयों का इनकम टैक्स में राहत हो जाए तो मध्यम वर्ग के जीवन में तो कितना बड़ा बदलाव आता है, कितनी सरलता सुविधा हो जाती है। और अब गरीबों की भी बारी है, नियो मिडिल क्लास की बारी है। अब गरीब को, नियो मिडिल क्लास को एक तरह से डबल बोनांजा मिल रहा है। जीएसटी कम होने से अब देश के नागरिकों के लिए अपने सपने पूरे करना और आसान होगा। घर बनाना, टीवी, फ्रिज खरीदने की बात हो, स्कूटर, बाइक, कार खरीदना हो, ये सब पर अब कम खर्च करना होगा। आपके लिए घूमना फिरना भी सस्ता हो जाएगा, क्योंकि ज्यादातर होटल्स के कमरों पर भी जीएसटी कम कर दिया गया है। वैसे साथियों, मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि दुकानदार भाई बहन भी जीएसटी रिफॉर्म को लेकर बहुत उत्साह में हैं। वो बहुत जीएसटी में हुई कटौती को ग्राहकों तक पहुंचाने में जुटे हुए हैं। बहुत सारी जगहों पर पहले और अब के बोर्ड लगाए जा रहे हैं। साथियों, हम नागरिक देवो भवः के जिस मंत्र के साथ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म में इसकी साफ झलक दिखाई देती है। अगर हम इनकम टैक्स में छूट और जीएसटी में छूट को जोड़ दें तो एक साल में जो निर्णय हुए हैं उससे देश के लोगों को 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा की बचत होगी। और तभी तो मैं कह रहा हूं ये बचत उत्सव है। साथियों, विकसित भारत के लक्ष्य तक पहुंचने के लिए हमें आत्मनिर्भरता के रास्ते पर चलना ही होगा और भारत को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने का बहुत बड़ा दायित्व हमारे एमएसएमईज यानी हमारे लघु, मध्यम और कुटीर उद्योगों पर भी है, जो देश के लोगों की जरूरत का है, जो हम देश में ही बना सकते हैं, वो हमें देश में ही बनाना चाहिए। साथियों, जीएसटी की दरें कम होने से नियम और प्रक्रियाएं और आसान बनने से हमारे एमएसएमईज, हमारे लघु उद्योगों को, कुटीर उद्योगों को बहुत फायदा होगा। उनकी बिक्री बढ़ेगी और टैक्स भी कम देना पड़ेगा, यानी उनको भी डबल फायदा होगा। इसलिए आज मेरी एमएसएमई से लघु उद्योग हो, सूक्ष्म उद्योग हो, कुटीर उद्योग हो, आप सबसे बहुत अपेक्षाएं हैं। आपको भी पता है, जब भारत समृद्धि के शिखर पर था तब भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था का मुख्य आधार हमारे एमएसएमईज थे, हमारे लघु और कुटीर उद्योग थे। भारत की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, भारत में बने सामानों की क्वालिटी बेहतर होती थी। हमें उस गौरव को वापस पाना है। हमारे लघु उद्योग जो बनाए वो दुनिया में हर कसौटी पर बेस्ट हो, उत्तम से उत्तम हो। हम जो मैन्युफैक्चर करें वो दुनिया में आन बान शान के साथ बेस्ट के सारे पैरामीटर को पार करने वाला हो। हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स की क्वालिटी दुनिया में भारत की पहचान बढ़ाए, भारत का गौरव बढ़ाए। हमें इस लक्ष्य को लेकर काम करना है। साथियों, देश की स्वतंत्रता को जैसे स्वदेशी के मंत्र से ताकत मिली, वैसे ही देश की समृद्धि को भी स्वदेशी के मंत्र से ही शक्ति मिलेगी। आज जाने अनजाने हमारी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में बहुत सी विदेशी चीजें जुड़ गई है, हमें पता तक नहीं है। हमारे जेब में कंघी विदेशी है कि देसी, हमें पता ही नहीं है। हमें इनसे भी मुक्ति पानी होगी। हम वो सामान खरीदें जो मेड इन इंडिया हो, जिसमें हमारे देश के नौजवानों की मेहनत लगी हो, हमारे देश के बेटे बेटियों का पसीना हो। हमें हर घर को स्वदेशी का प्रतीक बनाना है, हर दुकान को स्वदेशी से सजाना है। गर्व से कहो ये स्वदेशी है, गर्व से कहो मैं स्वदेशी खरीदता हूं, मैं स्वदेशी सामान की बिक्री भी करता हूं। ये हर भारतीय का मिजाज बनना चाहिए। जब ये होगा तो भारत तेजी से विकसित होगा। मेरा आज सभी राज्य सरकारों से भी आग्रह है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत के इस अभियान के साथ, स्वदेशी के इस अभियान के साथ अपने राज्यों में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को गति दे, पूरी ऊर्जा से, पूरे उत्साह से जुड़े, निवेश के लिए माहौल बनाएं। जब केंद्र और राज्य मिलकर आगे बढ़ेंगे तो आत्मनिर्भर भारत का सपना पूरा होगा। भारत का हर राज्य विकसित होगा, भारत विकसित होगा। इसी भावना के साथ मैं फिर एक बार इस बचत उत्सव की अनेक अनेक शुभकामनाएं देते हुए अपनी बात समाप्त करता हूं। एक बार फिर आप सबको नवरात्रि की, जीएसटी बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Eve of the new GST reforms, which start from 12 p.m. tonight, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses the nation and speaks about the big GST Mahotsav. He says that this is about Bachat Utsav, which will be celebrated across the country. First, the direct tax reduction in income tax, which came during the budget, and now the indirect tax reduction, which is coming in through the GST. This is double bonanza. He also spoke about the need for promoting Make in India, the need for Swadeshi, the need for vocal for local. So as the next generation GST reforms start, the Prime Minister's address to the nation becomes critical. He has spoken about self-reliance as he speaks about how this will be impacting the lives of the Aam Aadmi, the life of a businessman, how it is needed that the daily products, the products that we use on a daily basis, that will see a significant reduction. That is what the Prime Minister spoke about. He said India is moving in the direction of the double bonanza, spoke about how this will address India's growth story. He says that India's growth story will be accelerated, and he has also made a special request to the MSMEs, the crucial medium and small enterprises who he said will play an important role in the Make in India and how it will be going ahead. So Nagrik Devo Bhava is the message coming in from the Prime Minister, Aishwarya, as Prime Minister says that it is double bonanza. First, the direct tax, which came into effect during the budget announcement of Finance Minister in the month of March, and now the indirect tax, which will be coming into effect with the GST slab cuts.
Well, definitely, we are now seeing how it's a direct message being given, Maria, by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, also asking the people to make sure that they reap the benefits of what has been done, and also in a very subtle manner has given a message to corporate India saying that you are also needed. We are all working towards Viksit Bharat. We are all working towards making sure that things become much cheaper. The people have more money in their hands, but you also need to do your bit. You also need to do your part. Also, he flipped through the history pages, Maria, and spoke about what it used to be before 2014, specifically speaking about the article when companies actually wanted tax relief, and now he's saying that this is exactly what the government also has been working towards over the past many years. And this indeed is a fact. We have seen how the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also has been speaking about the fact that the core ideology of the BJP, and that is something that the Finance Ministry also works upon, is the fact to give as much benefit to the common man as possible. Industries also were speaking about the fact that simplification of GST is something that is required, and that is exactly what has been done. Simplification of GST. Now this will have a multifold effect, which we will see a domino impact, if I may use the word, is something that we will see in months to come. But yes, this definitely is Diwali coming early for all the Indians. Maria.
So the Prime Minister says that this is GST Utsav, which will begin now. He also says that this will boost investment and increase savings and happiness. This will accelerate India's growth story. Let's listen in to the Prime Minister again, and then I bring in the guests.
जब साल 2017 में भारत ने जीएसटी रिफॉर्म की तरफ कदम बढ़ाया था, तो एक पुराना इतिहास बदलने की और एक नया इतिहास रचने की शुरुआत हुई थी। दशकों तक हमारे देश की जनता, आप सभी लोग, देश के व्यापारी अलग अलग टैक्स के जाल में उलझे हुए थे। ऑक्ट्रॉय, एंट्री टैक्स, सेल टैक्स, एक्साइज, वेट, सर्विस टैक्स, न जाने भांति भांति के दर्जनों टैक्स हमारे देश में थे। एक शहर से दूसरे शहर माल भेजना हो तो न जाने कितने चेकपोस्ट पार करने होते थे, कितने ही फॉर्म भरने पड़ते थे, कितनी सारी रुकावटें थी। हर जगह टैक्स के अलग अलग नियम थे। तब ऐसी लाखों कंपनियों को, लाखों करोड़ों देशवासियों को अलग अलग तरह के टैक्स के जाल की वजह से हर रोज परेशानी होती थी। सामान को एक शहर से दूसरे शहर पहुंचने के बीच जो खर्च बढ़ता था, वो भी गरीब को उठाना पड़ता था। आप जैसे ग्राहकों से वसूला जाता था। साथियों, देश को इस स्थिति से निकालना बहुत जरूरी था। इसलिए जब आपने हमें 2014 में अवसर दिया, तो हमने जनहित में, देशहित में जीएसटी को अपनी प्राथमिकता बनाया। हमने हर स्टेक होल्डर से चर्चा की। हमने हर राज्यों की हर शंका का निवारण किया, हर सवाल का समाधान खोजा। सभी राज्यों को, सबको साथ लेकर आजाद भारत का इतना बड़ा टैक्स रिफॉर्म संभव हो पाया। ये केंद्र और राज्यों के प्रयासों का नतीजा था कि देश दर्जनों टैक्सों के जाल से मुक्त हुआ और पूरे देश के लिए एक जैसी व्यवस्था बनी। वन नेशन, वन टैक्स का सपना साकार हुआ। नवरात्रि के पहले दिन से देश आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के लिए एक और महत्वपूर्ण और बड़ा कदम उठा रहा है। कल यानी नवरात्रि के प्रथम दिवस 22 सितंबर को सूर्योदय के साथ ही नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो जाएंगे। एक तरह से कल से देश में जीएसटी बचत उत्सव शुरू होने जा रहा है। इस जीएसटी बचत उत्सव में आपकी बचत बढ़ेगी और आप अपनी पसंद की चीजों को और ज्यादा आसानी से खरीद पाएंगे। हमारे देश के गरीब, मध्यम वर्गीय लोग, न्यू मिडिल क्लास, युवा, किसान, महिलाएं, दुकानदार, व्यापारी, उद्यमी, सभी को ये बचत उत्सव का बहुत फायदा होगा। यानी त्योहारों के इस मौसम में सबका मुंह मीठा होगा, देश के हर परिवार की खुशियां बढ़ेगी। मैं देश के कोटि कोटि परिवारजनों को नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स की और इस बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। ये रिफॉर्म भारत की ग्रोथ स्टोरी को एक्सेलरेट करेंगे, कारोबार को और आसान बनाएंगे, निवेश को और आकर्षक बनाएंगे और हर राज्य को विकास की दौड़ में बराबरी का साथी बनाएंगे।
So the Prime Minister there saying that he has huge expectations from the MSMEs. We have Santosh Mehrotra, economist, joining us as well on this broadcast. And he said that when India was at the peak of its prosperity, MSMEs were its foundation. We need to re-achieve that. He also spoke about Swadeshi and said that it will increase the prosperity. Santosh Mehrotra, according to you, why was this address of the nation critical at this point? Prime Minister says that this is about some kind of utsav which is going to begin. He has called it GST Bachat Utsav.
Well, I don't know whether it was critical. The point is he was simply reminding us that tomorrow it goes into effect. So he's just reminding us that a reform of a tax which was introduced 8 years ago, which subsumed within it 17 different taxes of the center and the states, is finally being rationalized. Because countries which have a GST, none of them, practically none of them, have the kind of rate system that we've had. It's not just that we had 5 rates, we had actually 45 rates given all the various exemptions. And I think there is plenty of evidence about that. So yes, it is a matter of celebration that finally good sense has prevailed within the government.
Okay. S.C. Garg also joins us. He is former Economic Affairs Secretary. S.C. Garg, the emphasis again on MSMEs. This is a crucial segment. But the question really is that what will be their response so far? MSMEs, as the Prime Minister said, were the foundation when the first generation GST reforms had kicked in.
See, the first generation reforms in 2017, when the GST was introduced, a lot of informal sector enterprises, the MSMEs were actually in the informal and organized sector. They were outside the tax net, most of them. And for them, this was a major change. Some of them, or quite few of them, about 30, 40 lakhs of them, came into the formal GST network. It was a very difficult experience for them initially because their model of working earlier was some kind of tax arbitrage, very informal, not maintaining the record kind of things which the GST system required. So it was tough for them. There was a lot of opposition. It has now settled down more or less. In this round of reform, to my mind, except the fact that the rates for their products have been brought down to mostly from 12% to 5%. Not many of them are in 18% slab, or earlier were in 28% slab. For them, this allows their products to be sort of priced somewhat cheaper, but not much, because they won't have many of the input taxes credits as well, because in 5% tax bracket, hardly any of the products have input credits. So how much it will benefit the MSMEs, I think is for us to watch. we'll have to wait for seeing that happen. I think it's not a very unblemished or unstinted kind of support or package for the MSMEs.
Okay, and he clubbed the direct tax reform which came in 6 months ago and indirect, which is coming in the form of GST. Mr. Mehrotra, how do you look at that clubbing where he says that this is some kind of a double bonanza which has come in for the middle class?
Look, the point, I don't know about double bonanza. Let's just focus on the main dimensions of this reform. The main dimensions of the reform are, as Mr. Garg just now pointed out, is that the vast majority of products, excepting a few, are now within the 5 and 18% rates.
Yes.
Earlier, there were a multiplicity of rates, as I was saying in my previous intervention, a total of 45 rates, and formerly 5 rates. So now we have mainly 2 plus the high rate on so-called syntaxes and some others. So that's what it is. Now, of course, it is true that the government is going to take a loss, and this, a total the government says of 48,000 crores. It may well be more than that over the course of the full financial year. We shall wait to see. And we shall also wait to see whether demand picks up such that it actually offsets the decrease in government revenues. So that's what we would like to see happen, that government revenues rise. Because let's just remind ourselves that 8 years ago when the GST was introduced, the combined taxes which were then subsumed into GST were a certain percentage of GDP. Now, after that, they actually fell as a proportion of GDP. In other words, their contribution as a proportion of GDP, they fell, and they've only last year returned to the level that prevailed in 2016, the year prior to the introduction of the GST. So, I mean, the revenue collection record on this has also not been great, which is partly not so surprising, given that the economy actually took a nosedive. It slowed every quarter from 2017 onwards, all the way till the beginning of the COVID lockdown. And in the COVID lockdown, the economy went into contraction. So MSMEs suffered very, very severely.
Yes.
And they've only the MSMEs have now returned to the number, slightly more than the number that prevailed in 2015-16. Government's own data shows this, the annual survey of enterprises in the unorganized sector, and I've done a detailed analysis of that. So it's good news that at least the number of enterprises has returned to that level. But the point is, it's 8 years lost in terms of all those MSMEs which suffered over that period when joblessness increased, which is the reason why consumption levels have been systematically low. And that's why household savings are low. Household savings are at their lowest level in about 8 years. The other two components of savings, government savings and corporate savings, are doing well, while household savings are not doing so well.
Okay. Chetan has also joined us, but before I bring in Chetan, S.E. Garg, how significant is the number which has been quoted by the Prime Minister of expected savings of 2.5 lakh crore from the income tax exemption limit raise, and of course about with regards to the GST reforms for average Indian taxpayers and the MSMEs?
I think this is very important. In this entire address, the one thing which I found to be closer to reality was this mention by the Prime Minister that the total sort of pass on or the savings of the people in the form of the income tax relief which was granted in the budget, and now the GST is about 2.5 lakh crore.
That's right.
We know that the income tax relief was about 1 lakh crore. Therefore, what it gives away now is that the GST reforms will cost about 1.5 lakh crores to the government. unlike what has been stated so far, that it's 48,000 crores or so. My own estimates are 2 lakh crores a year, but 1.5 lakh crore is closer to this. I think it will be very interesting to watch now that what is the impact of this. Clearly, if you take this 1.5 lakh crores or 2 lakh crores or so it's about 12,000 to about 18,000 crores of rupees loss every month, so to say. For last 3 months, the GST growth has been very low at about 6.5% to 7% compared to the last year, much less than the nominal GDP growth. Now, if this kind of tax hit is also taken, is it going to get into the negative territory, the growth, or the demand push which is likely to come can compensate? I don't think it is going to, in any case, bring 2x or 3x or 4x of the savings which the people are going to make. It cannot exceed 1x, and therefore the tax giveaway would actually cost the government more than what the people will get in the form of savings.
I want to understand also one more point from you, whether the expected boost in consumption demand because of the income tax rate cuts which happened in the budget has kicked in, and what does the evidence really suggest?
See, the evidence doesn't suggest that that is playing out. That's what I said. If you look at the last 3 months or 4 months of GST data, the growth, nominal growth in GST collections is only 6.5% to 7%. It's not evenly equal to the nominal GDP growth. Therefore, the income tax benefit, which was passed on with effect from 1st of April, doesn't seem to have resulted into higher consumption. That is not the reality. There is another angle also which we must keep in mind, that if you give away 1.5 lakh crores to 2 lakh crores of tax receipts to the people to spend, the government expenditure also comes down by an equal amount.
Okay.
Now, if that happens, it cancels out each other. Therefore, this kind of optimistic projections that the tax giveaway leads to very large consumption boost is not correct.
Okay. Chetan Bhutani, according to you, the big takeaway?
Maria, well, two clear things. It's more than just it meets the eye. First of all, I think Prime Minister made a very clear point and wanted the middle class, the new middle class, to come out and spend, because the government has to complete the deficit of about 48,000 crores, which it will have to do it very soon. Otherwise, GST numbers could go in for a toss. Secondly, what my sources initially told me was the fact that Prime Minister made this clarion call of Made in India and Local for Local, which we first broke exclusively on India Today, was because of the two to three ideal facts. First, of course, was the trade issues with US and, of course, geopolitical barriers. Secondly, with the developments at Chabahar Port, Indian trade is definitely bound to have a negative growth and a negative effect. So Prime Minister reaching out to the people of India, saying that come out, spend, and of course, make in India to make India self-reliant as soon as possible.
Okay. Professor Mehrotra, what kind of price cuts do you expect in consumer goods from tomorrow? And to what extent, sir, can we expect this inflation rate to come down in the coming weeks?
See, the inflation rate is relatively low as it is. And I think you are pointing out product by product in your ticker as well as the mainstream, what is the reduction in the prices of the individual products. So look, we will, over the next 3 weeks, see a certain bump up as we see every year during the festival season of consumption. However, the real impact of the GST reduction will have to wait until this 3-week period is over. Okay. We will wait to see how it plays out over the rest of the financial year, and then we can come and talk again. And I'm in complete agreement, and I think that's exactly what I was also hinting at with Mr. Garg, that neither he nor I am expecting a massive jump or increase in consumption. Because you see, households are seriously indebted. they have taken gold loans and retail debt or retail borrowings from the banks are the biggest source of lending for Indian banks for the last, longest time. Private investment is not picking up. In other words, corporates are not borrowing in order to invest. It is retail investing which has gone up, and retail investing has gone up so much. Retail borrowing has gone up so much that the RBI has had to pass strictures upon the banks. Control. The RBI has told the banks, you have to bring down the rising share of retail debt in your total debt, total extended loans, as soon as possible. You cannot continue on this path. So there's a consumption demand crisis here, which is showing up clearly in reduced household savings as a proportion of GDP, which I talked about. And the foundational reason for that is that jobs are not growing. And it's not just jobs are not growing, real wages are not growing. If real wages are not growing, jobs are not growing in the non-farm sector, while jobs are growing in the farm sector. That's no good for consumption increase.
Okay. S.C. Garg, here is Professor Mehrotra talking about inflation rates which have come down. Then can we expect RBI to cut rates further, and also can we look forward to lower EMIs in the coming weeks or months?
See, I think this assessment is correct that the inflation rate will further go down. It's already low. Various analysis suggests that the GST cuts touch about 25 to 30% of the goods basket. And if their cost comes down, definitely the inflation impact would be further more positive. Now, if it comes to, let us say, 2% or 2.5%, though there is a factor which we must always remember, that in India, the inflation is not related to the real factors like what is the RBI rate or interest rate and all. It's more related to the weather patterns, the losses on the agricultural products, food products, and things like that. At this moment, they appear to be favorable. So I see that in couple of months, for next couple of months, the inflation should be quite subdued. This gives a perfect reason for the RBI to cut their interest rate further. I think they are still very high in the economy. There is no need for that. But there is a problem which the RBI has. If you cut the interest rate down, it impacts the incomes of the banks. It also impacts the financial sector stability, in the sense that today about 60 to 70% of the interest rate on housing loans and others are linked to the repo rate. If they reduce the rate, they have to reduce the interest rate, the charge from the people as well. Their incomes go down. So all these factors go into it. To my mind, there is a full justification for doing it. But I don't think RBI is ready to reduce it further at this moment.
Fine enough. Thank you so much. This consumption demand story is perhaps the big story which is emerging from this. Professor Mehrotra and S.C. Garg, pleasure having you on my show. Thank you so much for joining us. On that note, we are slipping into a short break. Coming up would be the reaction from the political class. What is the BJP saying and what is the Congress after this address to the nation? We'll get those voices in just a bit. Stay with us.
You are watching India Today.
Let me shake my friend Gaurav Sawant's hand, Nikhil Naz, Vikrant Gupta, Maria Shakil, so that, I'm trying to do what the Indians didn't do. I'm shaking hands because, you're part of a democratic newsroom. But obviously cricket is not. And look, politics has always been there in sport.
तेजस्वी जी के मंच से ये होने के बाद मुझे अटपटा नहीं लगा। मुझे लगा कि ये राहुल गांधी और तेजस्वी दोनों में कोई अंतर नहीं। और लालू जी के जमाने में जो बदतमीजी हुआ करता था वो राहुल गांधी ने दरभंगा के मंच पे किया, ये वैशाली जिले के मंच पे किया। और नरेंद्र मोदी जी की मां को गाली दे करके इन्होंने बड़ी भूल की, बिहार की अस्मिता को अपमानित किया।
भाजपा की बेचैनी बढ़ गई है, इसीलिए भाजपा द्वारा तरह तरह के कुचक्र और प्रपंच किए जा रहे हैं जिससे इस यात्रा को बदनाम किया जा सके। ध्यान भटकाने के लिए एक कुचक्र और प्रपंच रचा गया है। जिस वीडियो के बारे में कहा जा रहा है यह तेजस्वी जी की सभा का वीडियो है, उस वीडियो देखने से ही लगता है कि यह एडिटेड वीडियो है। तो ऐसी राजनीति भाजपा की संस्कार और संस्कृति रही है।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@ajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@ajtak.com.
जब एबीवीपी में आपका जैसे पोजीशन बाय पोजीशन आप बढ़ते रहे, पॉलिटिक्स नेक्स्ट प्रोग्रेशन था कि अब तो जाना ही है राजनीति में, ये हमेशा से था जहन में?
देखिए, ऐसा नहीं था मेरे जीवन में। जब मैं कॉलेज से वापिस मेरे गांव गया तो गांव की हर छोटी मोटी समस्याओं को लेकर के हम चलते थे। मेरे परिवार में ऐसी नहीं, सरपंच की और उसकी तो हमेशा रही है, लेकिन कोई बड़ी पॉलिटिक्स मेरे परिवार में नहीं रही। तो मैंने विषयों को उठाता था, बगल जो पास के गांव थे उनमें भी जाता था, कोई विषय होता था तो उसको भी करते थे। बिजली पानी को लेकर के या कई तरह के काम होते थे, उनको किसानों के साथ जुड़ करके काम करते थे। और मेरे को इसी के चलते विद्यार्थी परिषद से मैंने युवा मोर्चा में मेरी राजनीति भी प्रारंभ हुई।
मैं युवा मोर्चे के मंडल अध्यक्ष के रूप में मैंने काम किया। फिर मेरे को युवा मोर्चा में जिला मंत्री, उपाध्यक्ष, महामंत्री बनाया और फिर मैं पार्टी का युवा मोर्चे का अध्यक्ष भी रहा। युवा मोर्चे का अध्यक्ष में 3 बार रहा। उसी समय मेरे को ग्राम पंचायत के मेरे चुनाव आए और मैं 2000 में सरपंच चुना। तो मन में रहती है, लगती कि कुछ ना कुछ अच्छा होना चाहिए, क्या करना चाहिए। कई तरह के नए काम भी मैंने किए।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@ajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@ajtak.com.
बार बार उस प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी को, जिसने इस देश से 30 करोड़ से ज्यादा गरीबी मिटाई है, देश और बिहार की समृद्धि के लिए परिश्रम कर रहे हैं, विकास के भगीरथ को तुम गाली दे रहे हो, उनकी पूजनीय माता जी को गाली दे रहे हो। राजनीति के अखाड़े में तुम्हारा समर नाश बिहार की जनता करेगी। शासन को स्थापित करने वाले भ्रष्टाचारी तेजस्वी लालू परिवार ने तो शायद अपना शिष्टाचार और संस्कार ही बना लिया है। गाली गलौज का, जंगल राज का, भ्रष्टाचार का, अपराधियों को संरक्षण देने का अब तुम्हारा नाश निकट है।
किसी भी माँ को, माँ होती है। माँ जो होती है अपने संतान को पैदा करती है और 9 महीने अपने गर्भ में रखती है। तो ये तो बहुत अच्छी बात है कि जिन लोगों ने माँ के ऊपर आरोप लगाने का काम किया है और उंगली उठाने का काम किया है, उनके ऊपर FIR दर्ज किया, उनको जेल जाना चाहिए। हम सरकार से और केंद्र सरकार से ये भी मांग करते हैं कि जो माँ जैसे शब्द का अपमान करने का काम किया है, उसको तुरंत से तुरंत जेल भेजे। जो वहां का विधायक जिस तरीके से बोला है, हम ये मांग करते हैं बिहार सरकार से और केंद्र सरकार से भी कि उसको जेल भेजा जाए। अगर उसको जेल नहीं भेजा जाएगा तो हम आंदोलन करेंगे। जनशक्ति जनता दल महुआ में आंदोलन करने का काम करेगी।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
You are watching India Today.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address to the nation is over. What are the big takeaways? That's going to be our talking point this hour. The headlines. On eve of GST 2.0 launch, Prime Minister Modi says that India is ready for Bachat Utsav, says Indians will save 2.5 lakh crores due to tax reforms.
अलग-अलग मध्यम वर्गीय लोग, न्यू मिडिल क्लास, युवा, किसान, महिलाएं, दुकानदार, व्यापारी, उद्यमी, सभी को ये बचत उत्सव का बहुत फायदा होगा।
Prime Minister Modi says that GST reforms underline center-state federal cooperation, asks states to prioritize manufacturing for investment.
मेरा आज सभी राज्य सरकारों से भी आग्रह है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत के इस अभियान के साथ, स्वदेशी के इस अभियान के साथ अपने राज्यों में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को गति दें.
And ahead of trade talks in US, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says that he will visit US tomorrow. The Minister of External Affairs, meanwhile, says that White House has clarified that $100,000 fee is applicable only for new visas. And superstar Vijay targets Stalin government on cozying up to Prime Minister Modi. DMK fact checks TVK chief Vijay, slams him for spreading misinformation. Bihar BJP releases video of crowd abusing Prime Minister Modi. BJP slams RJD. RJD says BJP using distorted video. And Assam mourns demise of iconic singer Zubeen Garg. Sea of fans gather to pay last respect to their beloved singer. Final rites to be performed soon. On the eve of Navratri, Prime Minister Modi has addressed the nation and has highlighted the transformative power of GST 2.0. He has emphasized how it will be revolutionizing India's economy, and he has referred to the new reforms as Grand Bachat Utsav, a celebration of savings.